All right, well, let's let's wrap up scenario 5 or closing the ring, scenario 5. I, I honestly thought that this was going to be a Warsaw Pact, just a rollover, because the Americans just didn't have enough, and some of the armor that the Warsaw Pact had the reactive armor. Pretty much all the American, of course, all the American Abrams tanks have it. So, and then the tow missile's lethal, but the Warsaw Pact sort of dealt with them. Um, Quick look at casualties here. So you see the Warsaw Pact, Czechs took a beating, the dark blue ones there. And the Americans really not as much as I thought. I mean, there's some weakened units there. I still got the disruptive markers on the map. I removed the wrecks so you could see things better. And of course, disrupted facing this way are the Warsaw Pact, and facing that way is the United States or the NATO. Um, so the objective was to get one unit, at least one Warsaw Pact unit on at least one Objective A Hilltop X with good order. All right, well, they've got that. They've got one, two, there's one under here, that's three. So they've got three up on the hill. However, there can be no American units in any Objective A Hilltop X's at the end of the game. Well, it doesn't say anything about good order. It just says no American units. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so yeah, they did not clear it. Now, how did this not happen? Well, the first thing is the U.S. over here dealt with these guys. Initially, this infantry company, and they've got one M1 Abrams right there, still clean as he can be. They kept these guys at bay, and then with the use of the artillery and stuff, kept these guys at bay. And for a little while there, we had two of the tank platoons from one of these other companies were over there in their support. Then when the Russians started their bum rush from over here, we shifted it back over there, and then we had the reinforcements come on that brought in 3 Abrams platoons and I think an M113, which really served no purpose, headquarters unit, and that sort of stalled everything. And as a matter of fact, here is one of those Abrams that are left, and the other one was right here that came in with them, and then there's one over there destroyed along with. Well, no, I'm sorry. They had 1, 2, 3. They had 4 Abrams platoons that come on. So 2 of them have been destroyed. One's reduced, and the other one's sitting right here. And here's their M13 sitting way back here, barely in command range. But you would think this thing would move fast paced. In the game, while it does, this is actually quite a large scenario because there's a lot of card flip. Unfortunately, the Warsaw Pact, each unit formation only gets 1 card. Then you have an event card, which can be a friction card depending on what you roll on the dice. But then the NATO troops all have 2 cards, so they're getting 2 activations. Then when you hit an event where a unit, there's multiple events where a unit can they can clear their operations. There's some where they can execute an immediate action phase. It's potentially you can get 3 action phases out of a unit if you're not careful. And then, of course, the use of the end of turn cards, the way they fall, can really screw up the Soviet, because they can lose a whole turn and not do anything, and they only get 1 card. So they can lose a whole turn of move. Which, okay, we'll say that's fog of war, commanders stuttering in the middle of action, and we know that's happened worldwide forever, okay? So, but we pushed as hard as we could. The Americans dealt with them over here on this left side to the west. And like I say, they were able to get up on the hill. They caused some devastation, but that's the line they got. Close air support was pretty cool, flying the A-10s in. Never got shot down either, so that worked out pretty good. And then the use of the artillery when the Americans got their artillery. I'm not going to sit here and say that artillery got a massive amount of destruction or created a massive amount. The smoke probably had the better use for the Warsaw Pact. But the artillery kills, they weren't, it wasn't as massed as I would have thought it would be. And the mortars did a pretty good job. When you roll an artillery, it affects each unit in a stack individually. So the way I translated that was if a mortar has 3 dice at 5 to hit, and there's 2 units in a stack, he's going to roll 3 dice against both of those units. So unless I got that one wrong, I'm pretty sure. And still, it wasn't, I mean, it could be devastating. Against the armor units, not so much. Infantry out in the open, yeah, that could punish them. So, and there's another thing that slows down the movement in this game is, not throwing your infantry out there in the open. Trying to rush them through mounted on BMPs or 113s, different story. And the opportunity fire, it's a great mechanic in any system like this. However, a unit that op fires goes ops complete. So when you've got a company of, or whatever this formation is, of all these T-80 tanks, which had about 10 units, I think, rolling down one side, and you've got 1 TOW and 3 M1 Abrams, you're going to get, maybe if you're lucky and you max out, you get 4 opportunity fires. So that, if you've got 10 and T-80 units over here, the other 6 are going to move without being shot at. And that can be lethal. And then these units with the orange triangles on them, which you can't see because my finger's in the way. Units with these orange triangles on them, the reactive armor thing, and has other special abilities, that little orange triangle right there, they can move so much, and then their firepower dice roll so they can move and then fire. And where most vehicles are going to lose some firepower or some to hit, those guys aren't. And then when you're within the range, you're going to lessen your to hit number by 1. So, these guys here shooting, these T-80s shooting, if they're shooting within that, underneath that 12 range or 12 or less, their firepower dice is 3 and to hits 4, but now it's going to be to hit of 3. So you're rolling 3 dice with a to hit of 3. That's pretty good odds. Fortunately, when you're shooting at units that have reactive armor and they're on a hilltop, they're going to end up getting a 2 bonus to their saving roll. So they're going to, so this M1 right here, he's going to roll 4 dice with an armor save of 5, but he's up on a hilltop getting shot at, and he's got reactive armor, so now he's rolling 4 dice with a save of 3. And so, amazingly enough, I've had engagements where a T-80 hit all 3 dice, and the M1 Abrams rolled 4 saves. So that explains a lot of why they're not pushed back as far as they can. So, your objective A was right here. Okay, through this hilltop here. So there was a lot of area to take, but they only had to take 1 hex and be in good order, but they had to get the Americans off everything back here, and it never happened over here. I don't know, 4 or 5 more turns, maybe they can push them off over here, but I honestly did not think when I started this scenario that the Americans were going to be able to stall the Warsaw Pact in this one, but by golly, they did. So here you go, World War 85 from Storming the Gap. This scenario was out of the Defense of Frankfurt, which if all of y'all have gotten your recent Storming the Gaps, you've got that in that 2-box setup or whatever. Good, tough scenario. Yeah, like I say, it looks overwhelming for the Soviets, but those end of operations cards, the ability to only conduct 1 action or 1 operation during a turn, and like I said, the possibility of not even getting to do that and then having to wait till the next turn where they're guaranteed to do it, but then they could follow up the next turn and not do it again, and that happened multiple times. This was a 12-turn game, okay? So there you go. The Allies, the NATO forces, the U.S. hang on. They hold the hill. They hold a majority of the hill. Victory for them. This was fun to play, and I grinded these last 6 turns out because I was so wanting to see what the outcome was going to be after the first 6 turns and not making the great headway, but knowing that these armored formations and the Czechs over here and all of this motorized or mechanized infantry were going to surge, and to see that the Americans, they were defending on that line, and here's where they ended up in 6 more turns. All right, big fun. The system is really, really attractive. Most of y'all know this is not my flavor of era for combat, but this was a blast, and I'm sure there's more of this in my future too. So let's get this posted. NATO victory. United States forces held on to the hill, enough of the hill, and they get the win. And we'll talk to y'all soon.